Last week, we dissected the hypocrisy of Obama and Biden's recent actions in Libya. As the fighting continues, last night, President Obama faced the nation and attempted to justify his use of military force. Now, I don't want to waste your time with a point-counterpoint exposing all the lies in his speech, so here are some of the points that stood out.
For generations, the United States of America has played a unique role as an anchor of global security and as an advocate for human freedom. Mindful of the risks and costs of military action, we are naturally reluctant to use force to solve the world's many challenges. But when our interests and values are at stake, we have a responsibility to act.
Apparently, Obama believes it's okay to use military action to solve the world's problems when our interests and values are at stake, rather than when there is an immediate threat to our security.
Libya hasn't done anything to the United States. They're not a threat to our national security. There's been no aggression. There's no constitutional authority for a president to willy-nilly go and start placing no-fly zones over countries around the world.
In the face of the world's condemnation, Gaddafi chose to escalate his attacks, launching a military campaign against the Libyan people. Innocent people were targeted for killing.
Barack, did you not see the latest issue of Rolling Stone? Our own soldiers were targeting innocent civilians in Afghanistan.
And so 9 days ago, after consulting the bipartisan leadership of Congress, I authorized military action to stop the killing and enforce UN Security Council Resolution 1973.
Barack, why must you continue to lie to the American people? I checked the congressional record and found no resolutions authored by you to authorize war in Libya. And Dennis Kucinich concurred.
The American people have to realize that the Constitution puts into the hands of Congress the ability to decide whether to send a country to war or not. That's not up to the President to decide. You can only do it by a vote of the Congress. The President didn't ask Congress for permission. He went ahead and did it anyway. It's a serious matter, and it is a question. We end up with a constitutional crisis over this.
As Commander-in-Chief, I have no greater responsibility than keeping this country safe. And no decision weighs on me more than when to deploy our men and women in uniform. I've made it clear that I will never hesitate to use our military swiftly, decisively, and unilaterally when necessary to defend our people, our homeland, our allies, and our core interests. That's why we're going after al-Qaeda wherever they seek a foothold.
If you plan on going after al-Qaeda wherever they seek a foothold, then why exactly are we supporting al-Qaeda rebels? We found this footage from an Arab news source whose only description stated, "Al-Qaeda killed a Libyan soldier, took out his heart, and burned it." And the UN called them peaceful protesters. Warning, this is graphic footage.
هو أقول عصير
can make a difference. I believe that this movement of change cannot be turned back, and that we must stand alongside those who believe in the same core principles that have guided us through many storms. Our opposition to violence directed at one's own people. Our support for a set of universal rights, including the freedom for people to express themselves and choose their leaders.
Mr. President, how dare you defend the rights of those in Libya while you stood silently as Americans expressing their universal rights were assaulted in Pittsburgh by police clad in military garb. This, sir, is one of your greatest sins against the American people.
Hey, what's your name, dude? What's your name?
Injury to those who remain. No matter what your purpose is, you must leave. If you...
Libya poses no direct threat to the United States. Our military is supporting al-Qaeda rebels, and Obama is protecting the rights of people in Libya while ignoring constitutional rights abuses here at home. Now is the time to call for impeachment proceedings against Obama for his unauthorized use of military force in Libya. If you stand with me on this, share this video and fax your congressman at patriotresponse.com and tell your thoughts on this question of the week. Should we be getting involved in Libya's civil war? Why or why not? Leave your comment below or on Facebook or Twitter, or you can email us at feedback@freedom.tv. It's time for the Reality Report. Welcome to the 87th edition of the Reality Report. Coming up, we have a clip with G. Edward Griffin on the Glenn Beck Show explaining that the New World Order is taking over. We also have an exclusive interview with the former governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson. He tells us his view on the Libyan rebellion. Jason Burmis is back with a new punk rock politics segment, and we'll show you a commercial that you'll actually want to watch. As always, we dip into the mailbag, present last week's poll results, and brand another enemy of the state. But first, let's go to Angie with today's headlines.
Thanks, Gary. With new innovations in the automobile industry, paying high prices for gasoline may soon be a thing of the past. Japanese company Genepex has introduced a car run completely on water. The car has an energy generator that extracts hydrogen from water that is poured into the car's tank. Then the generator releases electrons that produce electric power to run the car. This car can also be run on tea, soda, or seawater. For example, a car filled with 2 cans of soda can go about 50 miles per hour for 1 hour. Since the car runs solely on water, it has no emissions. Although this car is not readily available, the Honda FCX Clarity Fuel Cell electric vehicle may soon be on the market. It has an electric motor that runs on electricity generated in a fuel cell. Its emissions are only water, and it is comparable to a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine with an EPA-certified range of 240 miles. There are only 50 available for lease in the U.S., but when the FCX was revealed, there were over 80,000 people around the world interested. Scott Powers, a reporter at the Orlando Sentinel, was invited to cover a local political fundraiser with guest speakers including Florida Senator Bill Nelson and Vice President Joe Biden, but he wasn't treated like a guest at all. He was put in a closet for hours, so he couldn't speak with the other guests. Spokeswoman Elizabeth Alexander said an inexperienced staffer had put him there by mistake. Powers says, "When I'd stick my head out, they'd say, 'Not yet, we'll let you know when you can come out.'" He was let out for 90 minutes to listen to the speakers, then ushered back into the closet for the remainder of the party. Allen Ginsberg, who hosted the party at his mansion, said he had no idea this was happening and that he was very sorry. For a long time, the United States and Europe were said to have big differences in their thoughts about internet privacy, but that isn't the case anymore. The EU's Justice Commissioner Viviane Reding said, Until recently, there was a common belief that our approaches on privacy differed so much that it would be difficult to work together. This can no longer be argued. Last week, both sides came together in Brussels to come to a compromise. The ultimate goals for both sides are to ensure web-based companies have clear guidelines which allow them to grow globally, and they are aiming to minimize regulatory arbitrage. Senator Joe Lieberman from Connecticut, who is also the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, was on Fox News Channel over the weekend discussing the U.S. government's intervention in Libya and Syria. Here's the clip.
What should we do about Syria?
Well, let me say first that it's very important for everybody to understand that what we're doing with the world community in Libya is what the Arab world wants us to do, what the Arab street wants us to do. So finally, we are on the side of the mass of people yearning to be free within the Arab world. Secondly, I think the world has made a very clear statement in Libya, which is being heard by both the Arab people and the Arab dictators elsewhere in the region. And I'd say with regard to Syria that Assad, the dictator there, ought to, and probably is getting a very clear message. If he turns his weapons on his people and begins to slaughter them, as Gaddafi did, he's going to run the risk of having the world community come in and impose a no-fly zone and protect civilian population, just as we're doing in Libya. And therefore, Assad has one choice, and that is to negotiate with the freedom fighters in Syria to create an entirely different government there.
Let me just interrupt very briefly, Senator Lieberman. We're running out of time, but are you suggesting that you would support some kind of international coalition to go in and do in Syria what we're doing now in Libya?
If Assad does what Gaddafi was doing, which is to threaten to go house to house and kill anybody who's not on his side, there's a precedent now that the world community has set in Libya, and it's the right one. We're not going to stand by and allow this Assad to slaughter his people like his father did years ago. And in doing so, we're being consistent with our American values, and we're also on the side of the Arab people who want a better chance for a decent life.
For now, the government's stance is the military's intervention is not needed because there is no humanitarian crisis. With the nuclear disaster in Japan getting worse, people cannot help but compare it to the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown. But now there is one similarity that the Japanese government doesn't want people to realize. That's the yellow rain. After receiving hundreds of calls from concerned citizens, the Japanese Meteorological Agency reassured them that it was just pollen falling from the sky and not radioactive materials. This was the same lie used after the yellow rain started coming down following the Chernobyl disaster. It has not yet been confirmed if the yellow rain is 100% radioactive or if it is just simply pollen. Those are today's headlines. I'm Angie Ress. Gary?